Today we'll be making modular overgrowth and garden beds for your tabletop games. So I love to make my game boards and tabletops look wildly overgrown and full of grass, tufts and flowers. But it's a bit hard to add miniatures and terrain on top of this if you build it into the board, as it leaves an uneven surface. So my goal today is to make some modular garden beds that I can move around and use on different tables in different ways. So after some experimentation, I came to this stuff. Where is this stuff? Polyester filling. This stuff comes in sheets that can be torn down to work as a perfect fibrous base for what we need. Let's show you how it's done. The key to this build is Polyfill. This stuff is great as it holds itself together but can be pulled apart and stretched out, and when used properly can form a great base. So start by pulling a piece out and tearing it in half, and then tearing it in half again and probably again. The thinner you get it, the more it'll be able to spread out. Now you're going to want to paint this brown. I started with the failed and very messy attempt at painting it with a brush. This was a waste of time and a waste of good paint. So I pulled out some brown spray paint and hit a few more pieces with that. This was far quicker, had a far better cover, and in the end just held the pieces together better. Once these bases had a nice brown coat to look like a root system, it was time to cover them with a quick grip glue. This is a spray adhesive that gets very sticky after a couple of minutes. Next up, we lay out a baking tray with some baking paper and pour in some flock. Once we've got our glue nice and tacky, we just dunk it in and see what sticks. Then hit the whole thing with another layer of the quick grip glue before finding a different tone of flock to add a bit of depth to the garden bed. And now just repeat this process for as many of these as you like. In this case, I built a handful of different types using a few different flocks so that I could use them across multiple different boards. By making a whole heap at once, it just means that I can store them and use them on future builds as I require them. It also gave me the chance to experiment with adding some flowers. This was a large part of the inspiration for this, as I love putting expansive flower beds and wild meadows in my builds, but it's costly and a bit of a pain in the butt to build them into every single model. So by throwing down some coloured sand and Mod Podge, I'm hoping to have a small overgrown field of flowers that I'll be able to throw down on any board in a modular system. Alternatively, this stuff is great to cover up 3D printed terrain. The Polyfill tends to stick to stuff even when covered with the flock and paint and glue, so it's very easy to form around prints or other models that you might have made. A great way to make a regular cave insanely overgrown or mysterious. Or just to help blend things into the environment that you are placing them into. These things turned out brilliantly. They're going to be used across my boards for sure. The modularity worked out exactly how I wanted them to, and it works amazingly to help blend different environments together. And here's a little sample of how they work on my carnival board.